Hello everybody and welcome to TalentBin webinar number 14, TalentBin Search, Find Your Purple Squirrel. My name is Jeffery. I'm one of the product specialist team leads here at TalentBin. Today we're going to be reviewing and kind of going back to basics on just how to set up a search in TalentBin, but beyond that, we're also going to review how to set up a search in a way that is going to allow you to find the best fit candidates first so you can be more efficient with your sourcing. So just review the agenda here. We're going to start off with going over the tech space in general and reviewing some of those tech stacks and the languages and skill sets involved with those. We're going to discuss a little bit of the difference between skill versus role-based searching. Then we will review an actual job rec and how to find our required skill sets compared to our nice-to-have skill sets. Then we're going to go right into some best practices and some examples, as well as using TalentBin's new feature, the Job Rec Translator, which is a way for TalentBin to run your searches automatically for you. And then at the end, we're going to review searching for some of those tougher non-open source developer, non-wheelhouse recs, and how to use some unique searching methods in TalentBin to still find some good search results for those types of folks. And then at the very end, we're going to finish up with going over some of the support resources already available on TalentBin support for helping you set up your searches, and we'll leave some time at the end for some Q&A. So to start off with, this is TalentBin's handy dandy technical cheat sheet mousepad. I think it's actually a really great little tool here. I use it on my day-to-day, and what you'll see is that it gives a really clear outline of the types of skill sets that are a part of each unique tech stack. So just to review these really quickly, some of the big ones here for front end, right? The languages associated with front end are going to be CSS, HTML5, JavaScript. Moving down to back end, you'll see Java, Scala, Python, Ruby, PHP, and then kind of going to a bit more of those unique, newer technologies, right? So big data, right? We'll let you know, like, okay, a big data guy, they're going to want to have MapReduce, Hadoop, Hive, Pig, Zookeeper, and as well as for mobile, kind of outlining the different languages that you're going to see depending on which type of device the person specializes in. So for example, an iOS person is going to be working more in Objective-C, while an Android person is going to be working on Java and Android, and C# and Silverlight for a Microsoft device. Now, if you're interested in receiving one of these, you can actually just email support@talentbin.com. And again, really handy tool. And overall, I think it's really important as a technical recruiter to actually understand, some of these skill sets that are associated with the particular type of role or tech stack that you're looking for. Because software engineers are a little bit of a different breed. A lot of the times their role will not actually tell you what specialty or what focus they have. So for example, you might have your manager come across and say, hey, we need to find a really great front-end engineer. And you go across online and someone's role might just be software developer. And from there, it's really important to actually try and get a sense of, okay, this person says they're a software developer, but are they front-end? Are they back-end? Are they mobile? What do they exactly focus in? And you really need to understand the types of skill sets that go along. So if you see somebody, that is experienced with CSS and HTML and JavaScript, you know that, okay, this guy is actually going to be a good fit for that front-end role. And to kind of give this a little bit more of a literal description of how software developers are a little bit more unique, I think, than other types of roles you may be searching for. This is an example guy online. His job title is literally Scruffy Nerf Herder. And if you look down, he's talking about building better servers. Looks like he'd actually be a solid back-end developer, but if you actually ran a role search for this type of candidate, he would never come back in your search, right? And so this is the issue, again, with software developers in particular compared to other types of roles. And, this is kind of an extreme example. So to give you a little bit of a more realistic one as well, we're going to actually look at some recommendations from one of our lead architect here at TalentBin, Steve. And this is Steve down in the picture below. He's the one with the hands on his head. He's also a Star Wars aficionado, as was our last gentleman as well. We actually have these meetings monthly at TalentBin where we speak with our engineers and talk about what they do, but more importantly, how would you recruit the type of engineer that they are. So Steve, being our architect, he put it really clearly. If you're looking for an architect, you shouldn't do a role search for the word architect, because depending on which company the person's at, their role could change entirely. They might be a principal engineer, a lead engineer, a senior, or a staff engineer, right? And so that's not going to actually give you a great description. And so just to highlight this point, this is Steve's LinkedIn, and you can see at TalentBin, yes, his title is software architect, but at his prior company, he was a principal member of technical staff. Before that, he was a senior software engineer. And before that, he was a software development engineer 3, right? But if you take a look at the description and under all these, you will actually find that he's doing architecture work, and he lists that under each of his job descriptions. So again, if you did run that role search before he started working here, he might have not come back in your search. So it's really important for developers to actually look for that particular skill set, and that will give you the best chance of finding the right candidate for the role. Now we're going to move on here to actually review that example job rec and go over how to find the skill set information. So first off, the biggest thing I'm looking for here in any type of job description is I'm looking for that required skills and experience. So even though my title for this role is a full stack software engineer, right, I'm looking down here at my required skills to know what I'm going to put in my search string. So first off, I see JavaScript, I see HTML, I see CSS, but then I'm actually seeing down beneath that databases as well. So, a full stack engineer, they're going to want somebody with front end and back end experience. So that's what gives us a clue as to what skill sets we might actually put in there, because again, many full stack software engineers, their job title may not be full stack. And down beneath, you can see our nice to have skill sets. And this is a TalentBin job description, and we're on the West Coast in California, so we keep the language a little loose here. So with us, it's bonus chops, but for different job descriptions, you may see nice to have, you may see optional. It's all one and the same. But again, it's those skill sets right here that, if our search starts off really broad, we can try and narrow it down with some of these additional skill sets, right? So for example, in ours, we see server-side languages, Java and PHP, and some some specific and unique frameworks of JavaScript, so Backbone and Reactive here, as well as a knowledge of Git. So this is where we're going to use those additional skill sets to narrow down our search. But the final note I want to make here in general is that I think it's really important to get a deep understanding of which skill sets are actually most important for a particular job description. And honestly, I don't think recruiters do this enough, is go back to your hiring manager, if you're a corporate recruiter, go back to your client if you're an agency recruiter, and actually get down to the nitty gritty, all of the things aside, what skill sets are most important for a specific role. Because a lot of the times what you'll see is that, all this other stuff that I have around here, I don't really need. What I need is they have to have JavaScript experience, and they have to have databases, and that'll make sure I guide my search and find that best fit candidate early on. Right. So again, I think it's important if the job rec isn't clear, and I've spoken with hundreds of thousands of recruiters and seen many different types of job descriptions, some awesome and some not so awesome and very bare. I think it's really important to go back and get that required skill info, because again, that's what's going to allow you to set up your search in the most efficient way possible. So to move along here and go into TalentBin search specifically, I want to review some of the best practices we see here. Number one is to create a folder for your search. And I can't stress this enough. I think we see even our most advanced and some of our best users still get this confused a little bit. This is a little bit different than LinkedIn. I know LinkedIn uses projects, and what you do customarily in LinkedIn is you will run your search, you will save your candidate, and then you will put that candidate into a respective project. Well, in TalentBin, you're actually going to make that project, and again, in TalentBin, we call them a folder instead. It's basically, again, the same thing, where you're going to make that folder first before we start running our search. And that will allow us to stay organized, because basically everything that flows downstream with a folder, that's how you stay organized in TalentBin, both with saving your searches and saving your candidates, all that good stuff. So really important to create that folder first. After that, it's using advanced search. And the beauty of advanced search is that it allows you to put ORs in your search string, which I think is super handy. Next is refining your search by skill set. And this goes back to, again, developers are a little bit of a different breed there. It's really important to put in those skill set first. And the other kind of small note on there is that I will actually put in my most crucial skill sets first in my search. It does make a small difference in the way that your search is rank ordered. So again, recommend that as well. Also using explode terms when appropriate, and there's a quick little picture of this down below, and we'll review this more in depth when we go through the example. But for front end, for example, I can try and put that in, and you'll note that when I start typing that in, I have that little yellow plus sign right here. And when we actually click on that, you'll see that, okay, front end actually includes all these different synonyms for front end development. So CSS, HTML, JavaScript, those same skill sets and keywords that we saw on our little mouse pad, they show up all right here. And that'll allow us to be a little bit more efficient with our search and pull back the right skill sets that we're looking for. Continuing on, making your search narrow. So I usually shoot roughly to get between 50 to 200 people. It's definitely not set in stone, but I think shooting for this type of narrow number actually allows you to, again, get your best fit candidates first. I talk to a lot of recruiters, and I see some recruiters make these really broad, 5,000, 10,000 person searches, and that's not very efficient if you're trying to go through 5,000 people and qualify each of them off the get-go because you made your search too broad. Why not narrow that down? Go through your best fit candidates first, and then you can always open your search up after that. Next is filtering by network type. And again, I'll review this in just a second, but you can actually filter in TalentBin by which web profiles that people actually have, which websites people actually have an active profile on. So super handy on that front. And then last but not least, saving your search so you can always come back to it later. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into an example search here. And I'm just gonna pop over to TalentBin. And so here I am in TalentBin, and you can see right now I'm in this generic Java engineer San Francisco folder. Now I actually want to run a search for that full stack role we were just reviewing earlier. So what I'm going to do first of all, right, is I'm going to go ahead and create my new folder. And so again, I just click on the little folder button, and I'm just going to click create folder. And let's just call this my JJ, and I'll just say full stack, and let's call this we're in San Francisco. Let's just do that. And so I'm just going to do create there. And actually, one note I will say with the folder name, you can separate this however you like. My usual guideline is to put in at least the skill set and the location. I know a lot of people will put in the actual job rec number, to help yourself stay organized. But as a rule of thumb, you want to separate them by unique skill set or by unique job, right? So just so you don't want, I don't want my mobile developer in my full stack folder. I don't want my backend people saved in my front end folder, right? So just any way that it makes the most sense to you, actually keep them organized that way. And you know what? For this one, I'm just going to keep this full stack. Is to say, it's not required they be in San Francisco right now. I might look in a few different places, and this particular job, we can, let's just say we can relocate them. So I'll just call this JJ full stack. And let me go ahead and create that folder. And you'll note what's gonna pop up first is this little guy, which is one up creating a search for this folder. And this is our job rec translator, which I mentioned earlier, our automatic search functionality. If I click let's do it, I can just paste my job description in here. I'm gonna say no thanks right now, and we're gonna go over an example of this a little bit later in the call. But for right now, let's just go over how to set up this search from scratch. So to start things off, again, right now, we are in basic search, which you can see right here. And I'm actually gonna go over to advanced search right here. And advanced search is set up as a visual Boolean. And basically the way it works is that anything in the same row here counts as an OR. To create an AND in our statement, we just click add field right here. So anything the same row as an OR, new row is an AND. So it should be pretty easy for you to quickly see like how your search is set up. And along with this, you don't have to put in any quotes or anything like that as well. You just type in the skills that you're looking for and you're basically off to the races. So to start off with, I'm gonna go back to our job descriptions for our full stack role here. And you know what I'm saying? I'm saying JavaScript, I'm saying HTML, CSS. You know, I happen to know that we have a little type ahead for front end. I'm just gonna start typing that in. You'll note it appears from our little drop-down menu right here. It has a little yellow plus, which means it's an explode term with some synonyms attached to it. So if I click that, again, it will create the OR for me. And down beneath, it will say we also search for 8 synonyms. And this is where, again, I can actually see all those synonyms we have tied to front end. So JavaScript, HTML5, CSS, HTML, right? All these. And these are actually customizable. I can click edit synonyms and I can add to this list. I can remove some from this list. So definitely feel free to play around with that if you don't like some of the ones that we have in there automatically for you. But we've built these out for a ton of the developer skill sets to help you save time. Now, the other neat thing here is that you can actually create your own explode terms as well. So for example, you know, if I wanted to find somebody who was a Star Wars fan, if we saw both of our prior examples, both those developers were Star Wars aficionados. So I'm just going to type in, you know, Star Wars right here, and we actually don't have a type ahead for Star Wars. Maybe we should, but I'm going to go ahead and just hit enter. Again, it creates the URL for me, and down below it actually says add synonyms. So if I wanted to, I could put in, you know, anything I wanted to right here. Whoop, and hit add. And now Luke Skywalker, every time I look for Star Wars, it's going to also include Luke Skywalker, because the way the explode tag works is that anytime a keyword has a synonym with it, those synonyms are automatically included as ORs in our search string. So I'm searching for Star Wars or Luke Skywalker right now. And again, for front end, I'm automatically searching for JavaScript or HTML or CSS, right? So again, it's a way to help you save time so you don't have to write out those long OR search strings yourself. Now that being said, I'm looking back at my job description here, and you know, we really wanted that JavaScript. It looks like it's a required skill set. So I know it's already an OR up here. It could be JavaScript or CSS, but I want to make JavaScript an AND. So I want to make sure that I actually have that and make sure my candidate is tagged with JavaScript specifically. And again, you can look at the synonyms for JavaScript. JavaScript actually has a ton because there's so many different frameworks of JavaScript. So, you know, Angular, Backbone, Node, all those different ones. And again, handy so you don't have to type in that long OR sort string yourself. And I'm going to throw in, just for kicks, I'm going to throw in that CSS and HTML as ands in our search as well, right? Again, why not find that best fit candidates first? Down beneath, the next skill set I'm seeing here is databases. So let's go ahead and add that in. I see that right here. And again, databases, it's going to be a laundry list. SQL, Oracle, all those different databases that people have active. And, you know, in our particular search, it didn't require one in particular. Generally speaking, most recs, if you have experience with one of them, that would be enough to get you on your way. And that candidate will probably still be a good fit for your search. To keep adding on top of this, I'm actually going to add something unique to TalentBin here, and I use this in literally every one of the searches I build out. I'm going to change this to role, and I'm actually going to change this little green check mark, but right now this means that anything in here is a required term, right? I click this once, it becomes a minus sign, and this means that anything I have in here is a not, right? If you think about traditional Boolean, so I'm saying I don't want anything that I put in here to come back in our search. And so this is a role search, and I'm actually going to change this to sales because I don't want any, say, technical sales folks. Next one is I actually don't want anybody in recruiting either, though as much as we love recruiters, we don't want them back in our search. And the last one here that I think is actually really interesting is the leadership type ahead. And we built out an explode term for this as well. And this is just removing those C-level execs. So CEOs, VPs, generally people who may have these skill sets, right? If they're CTO or VP of technology, they may have this experience, but we don't want them coming back in our search because they're probably not a good fit for our full stack developer job description. And next I'm going to go ahead and throw in our location, since right now those were the main, again, required skill sets. So I'm going to stick with those, and I'm going to see how this search goes when I put in my location here. So let's go ahead and put in United States. And you know what, let's actually do a lookup here. Like, say you don't know your zip code, you can actually just run a handy dandy little lookup right here. And let's do Seattle. Let's do the good old Northwest here. And so what I'm going to do is I can just copy that. I can paste that right there, boom, and it is going to actually default the search to 50 miles. You can always adjust that, but again, it will default to 50. I think that's fine for my search radius for right now. The other thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to say return candidates I can contact via email. And what this will do is this is going to require anybody that comes back in our search to have an email address. Now, if you don't filter by this, right, and run the search, you're going to have more candidates because we don't have the email addresses of everybody that exists in the world, right? Not everybody has their email publicly online. But that being said, if you come across somebody where we don't have their email address, it is possible to actually request email addresses from us. And that's a great free feature that we actually have about a 75% success rate returning emails for software engineers. And you get it back in about 2 to 4 business days. But in any case, I usually just filter by email because why not focus on those best fit candidates I can reach out to right away, right? So I'm going to do that. And let's go ahead and run our search and take it from there. Okay, so this was a lot of people, right? So 4,700 people. We can probably do some more here to actually narrow our search down a little bit, because this is a little too much that I want to actually go through. So down below, I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to go down to network type, and I'm going to actually filter down by a few websites that people, again, have an active profile on. And for most general software engineers, I filter by GitHub, I filter by Stack Overflow. And when I click multiple of these, it actually works as an OR. So I'm saying anybody that comes back in my search, they need to have a GitHub or a Stack Overflow profile. Now, there's some other really fun websites you can also filter by for some unique types of roles. So for example, if you're looking for a UI UX designer, you could filter by some of these sites where designers will actually post portfolios of their work, like Behance and Coraflot and Carbonmate and Dribble. If you are running a search for a Ruby developer, you can set like Ruby Gems, which is a Ruby specific coding platform. And we have guidelines on all these on our support website as well. But in any case, for right now, I'm just going to use GitHub or Stack. Those are the two biggest ones. I want somebody to have a profile on one of those. So let's run that search again. We had 4,700. Let's see if this brings us down a little bit. All right, a little bit. So we're down to 3,300. I want to actually get this even narrower. So I'm going to start looking into some of those additional nice to have skill sets. We're looking at our bonus shops right here. So I'm seeing Java and PHP. So I'm going to go ahead and throw those in. So we have Java here, and again, Java will include, J2EE and Java Beans, all those associated frameworks with Java. And let's go through and add that PHP in as well. And next down the list, we see Backbone and Reactive. I'm going to use the actual OR functionality here. So let me type in Backbone. And I'm going to click that. This is okay. We also search for 2 synonyms, and this is just different ways of spelling Backbone, right? So Backbone.js, Backbone space JS, and I'm going to type in that Reactive. And Reactive, we don't actually have a type head for that automatically, but I can do the exact same thing, right? I can just go ahead and I want to make sure I get those candidates back, so I'm going to do Active.js and Reactive space JS. I'm going to add those in, so it'll automatically search for those as well. So let's see, was there anything else in there? Oh, Git. let's go ahead and throw in that Git as well. So let's type that in. And what you will see sometimes is that if a keyword here is part of an explode term, it'll actually tell you down below. So it says Git is actually part of the explode term, build management tools. And if I click that, it'll actually switch it to build management tools. We can say, oh, okay, let's check out some of these. So Maven and Git, TeamCity, Team Build, right? So I could use build management tools if it didn't matter which one of those that I wanted, right? That being said, I'm actually gonna hit done there. I wanna make it Git specifically, so let's just put in Git and let's just leave it at that. But again, it is a handy option to know whether the term that you're typing in is part of another explode term. So let's run this search one more time. So we're at 3,300. And let's see what this does for us. Nice. So this is, again, right in that wheelhouse of 50 to 200 people. This is a very manageable size for me to go through. So I am going through, and I'm liking this search. If you can see, like all these guys, they all have a large amount of web profiles. I feel pretty confident that this is going to be a solid search for me. These all look like they'd be potential good fits. So next up, I'm actually going to save this search. And so if I click this right here, this big save button right here, I can save my search. And I generally like to give some sense of how big the search is. So me personally, I use narrow, medium, or broad, and at the beginning of my search, just so, again, for myself later, I know how big it was. So let's call this is a pretty narrow search, right? We got it down. So I'm going to do narrow. And I'm going to say full stack, and I could also potentially add in some of those unique skill sets that we added in there. So I might say, Git backbone, right? Just something that lets me know, okay, later on, I know what type of skill sets I added in there as well. And let's go ahead and hit save. And now that search is saved just to the right of our big save button in that little drop-down menu. We can actually see our saved searches there. And again, I'll only see the saved search when I'm back in my JJ full stack folder. So if I create a new folder, I actually won't see my search that I just saved. I won't see it when I click that drop down. But say you want to, we have 136, so we wanted to take that down even more. Or maybe there's some additional requirement. While not required, maybe it truly is optional. So I'm going to use another example here. And I'm actually going to change this to school. And this is a handy dandy little feature I think is good to know about as well. We actually have type aheads for some of the types of engineering schools there are out there. So for example, if you needed somebody to be part of to come from a top tier engineering school, right? So we have already a type ahead for the top 40 or so engineering schools. So CMU, MIT, Stanford, Cal, all this is basically a laundry list of top schools. And again, for most recs, this actually isn't required, right? It's a nice to have. It'd be nice if they came from a top tier school. And we actually have type aheads for middle tier and elite engineering schools as well. But if I run this search, right, this is going to significantly narrow my search results down to 28. And I go through and say maybe I work through these candidates, or maybe I want to just keep that search a little bit broader back to my 170 or so people. I can actually make this a nice to have in TalentBin. So if I click this green check mark twice, it'll turn into a little yellow plus sign, which means that this term is optional but preferred. So when I run the search again, it's not going to require people to come from a top tier engineering school. It's just going to bring people that are from a top tier engineering school to the top of our search, so we see them first. So let's go ahead and run that again. And it should bring us back to our original number, 130, excuse me, not 170. But you can see these people that are at the top, they were some of those same ones that we saw in our prior search when we actually did require the top tier school. So something to definitely play around with as you're going through, and you can actually use the nice to have feature in TalentBin. So I think this is a pretty solid search that we just did manually. We added in a lot of different features, but I think the work up front actually paid off, and these look like some great candidates to reach out to. So now let's talk a little bit about how to use TalentBin's job rec translator. So if you recall, when we created a new folder that search, window popped up saying you want TalentBin to help create a search for you. Now, just for kicks, I'm going to actually create a new folder for this brand new search. So let's call this JJ, and we're going to do test full stack JRT, and let's create that folder. Now, again, we can do let's do it from right here. I'm going to hit no thanks just to show you as well. If you want to run that search automatically and you haven't just created a new folder, you can also access it right down here, down below. When it says want us to create a search for you, click that, it'll pull up that exact same window. So let's go ahead and let's just paste that job description in. And the cool thing here is that I don't really need to be neat about this. I can just grab the whole thing, right? Copy that, go back to my job, and I'm just literally pasting the entire thing in here because it's completely keyword based. So I'm just gonna hit create my search, and this will often pop up if the location is not listed in your job description. It'll say, uh-oh, we couldn't find your location. I assume you don't want to search worldwide, so let's put in that location manually. And I need to grab that zip code, because again, not from Seattle here, so let's put that in manually again. And let's see how it does. And it will actually go through some of that same logic that we use to narrow our search. It's going to try to get me, actually down and narrow, not have this super broad search. It's going to try to get me down to that 50 to 200 range. It won't do it all the time. And of course, it's based off the keywords that are available in our search. So it got us to 777, which is, a solid size. And it actually said, hey, like we did add some filters to your search to narrow down the results on purpose to try and give you that list of best fit candidates first. But that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So it automatically filtered by email for us. It filtered by network type as well. So it filtered by GitHub. But this is, again, completely customizable, right? So it did grab JavaScript and HTML and CSS and databases, Java, PHP, Git, a lot of those keywords that we added in ourselves. It didn't grab those particular frameworks of backbone of JavaScript, meaning the backbone and the reactive, which is why the search is larger. But that being said, say I'm in, this is a good start, and I can actually, of course, I can add in a new field and I can adjust my search manually as well. I can make some of these nice to haves, right? If I wanted to widen my search up and do all that good stuff as well. But say, I created this new folder and I say, what, this is a nice start, but I actually want that saved search I did in my other folder. I don't remember all the skill sets I used. I want to grab that saved search, and what you can do here, so I can hit this little drop down next to save again. You can see I haven't saved any searches in this particular folder. All right, so I'm actually going to click manage your saved searches. And this is going to show me all the searches that I've created. And I can actually see, oh, yep, here's that narrow full stack Git backbone one that I have in my other folder. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And I'm just going to add the word test to it here. And I'm just going to hit the copy button. And now you can see I just added it to my test full stack JRT folder. I'll hit done from there, and now it actually appears in that drop down there. So that's how you can actually go and manage your saved searches, pull searches that you might have run in a different folder into the folder you're currently sourcing in. Because a lot of the times you'll use some of the same logic. If you're looking for a front end person or a back end person, a lot of the times you just need to add those extra little tidbits each time you go around, and that's a good way to again help you save time, so you don't have to write out the entire thing again. But that's using advanced search in TalentBin. And with that being said, let's pop back over here and talk a little bit more about how to create a non-wheelhouse search. So that was a wheelhouse search we just ran. That's something perfect for TalentBin. It's one of those open source developers, right? And I know not everybody that uses TalentBin always has those types of positions that TalentBin is best at. Those open source developers that are on the technical side of the tool. But there are some best practices we have available for some of those non-wheelhouse roles. And so some of those non-wheelhouse roles we see a lot, Oracle, SAP, candidates, embedded hardware, network engineers, project managers, sales, marketing folks. These are typically candidates that TalentBin isn't focused on grabbing information on these candidates. And the reason that we're not as good at pulling back all the information of these candidates is because they are not active on the type of websites that TalentBin is actually actively crawling. So, for example, we look at our hardware guy, right? He's not online on a site like GitHub or Stack. He can't practice hardware engineering. That's just the nature of the technology. And it's similar with even these proprietary softwares, such as Oracle and SAP, which is, they're not open source. I can't go on GitHub and code in Oracle. I have to have a license for it. Same thing with like an embedded or hardware, a network engineer, right? It's just the nature of the technology. They're not going to be on sites like GitHub and Stack. That being said, you can still run searches and pull back some solid search results for these types of candidates and still be successful. So some best practices we have for searching for these types of roles is do a role search as compared to a keyword search. Now, this is completely opposite of what I just told you for searching for those open source developers. I know, but this actually will be more useful for these non-wheelhouse roles since, again, our skill-based searching isn't going to be as effective for those non-wheelhouse recs. Next is keep those searches pretty broad when I'm typing them in. I'm not going to add in a lot of those niche skill sets. And last is filter by email. I think one of the best features of TalentBin is our email outreach functionality. And that's why we generally see people see success when they filter by email, use our follow-up campaign functionality, and still reach out to some of these candidates. And to kind of show a quick success story that we did have on this front, we had a client, Transamerica. They had all different types of roles. They had UI UX design, they had a business system analyst, they had SEO project coordinators, among a bunch of others. And again, this is, I think, pretty similar to a lot of TalentBin recruiters out there, which is, the UI UX role, right in our wheelhouse, perfect, right? But some of those other roles, not gonna be as good for, right? But that being said, they did keep their searches broad, they filtered by email, and they used those follow-up campaigns to reach out to candidates. And over the course of just a few months, they racked up 26 hires, had over 150 interviews, again, just by using that email functionality. And one kind of unique thing that I think most people don't think about is that with these non-wheelhouse roles, candidates are actually less bombarded by recruiters. So as compared to your average software engineer who gets employed right out of college and makes 90, 100K on the first job, right? Never has to enter in the job market. These other types of roles, and they're not as heavily recruited passively by recruiters as those software developers. So you actually get a higher response rate when you reach out to these types of folks because they're more likely to be actively looking. The con is that there is going to be less information in that TalentBin profile due to the fact that these non-wheelhouse folks aren't going to be active on those websites that I mentioned that we crawl. So that's why you have to keep your searches broad. But again, you can be successful doing this. So let's actually set up another example search here really quickly. I'm going to pop back over and I'm going to actually set up a new search. And let's just go ahead and create a new folder again. And let's do a network engineer. And since Seattle has been our one of choice, let's do that. And so I'm going to create that. I don't have a job description handy, otherwise I could, of course, just use our job rec translator right here. I'm going to say no thanks, and I'm going to pop over to advanced, and I'm going to change this right away from keyword into role. To start off with, let's put in our role, right? We have a network engineer, and you see it as part of the explode term DevOps job titles. That being said, I want to stick it to network engineer. If I take a look at these actually, just to do it. We see system admins, infrastructure architects, and some of these might actually be good fits for us, but just to try and keep it narrow, I'm going to try and put in that network engineer, and I might actually add some synonyms myself. So, I'll put network administrator, which candidates with that role may also be a good fit. And just for kicks, let's add in that network admin as well. And let me just mark that as done. And let's add in a few other skill sets common to a network engineer, right? So I'm actually going to keep this under keyword as compared to role. I got my main role with the network engineer. So I'm going to put in Cisco right here and just have that as a keyword, right? Again, keeping it pretty broad. I'm going to add another and let's say VoIP. Let's do that as well. These are all common skill sets, but again, keeping them very broad, very basic, and tying that to my unique role. That being said, I'm also going to add in my minus here, create my not, and I still don't want technical sales guys. I still don't want recruiters, and I still don't want those people in leadership positions, the CEOs and VPs and whatnot. So let's throw in that search again. Let's see, I don't know if I did have that, that copied, handy dandy. And the last thing here is I'm gonna make sure I do still filter by email, right? So I still have an email address to reach out to these guys with. So I'm gonna run that search. And you see here, right, 58 candidates, not a ton, right? Even with our just like basic search string. That being said, when I go down, these guys look like pretty solid fits, right? And what you'll know like overall is that, these candidates in wheelhouse, you'll generally see less. They'll have less web profiles, less data to reach out to them on, right? That being said, I have an email, right? I can always try and do some additional digging on these candidates when I'm actually qualifying them, right? But all these candidates are tagged with, a network engineer role in their history. They all also have Cisco and VoIP tagged as well. So still good candidates to reach out to. And I can still put them on that email campaign. And again, if I want to play around with this, I could say, you know what? It's really, I just need a network engineer with Cisco. Or I could even go, you know what? I just need a network engineer, right? And wrap it up. Yeah, 260 candidates. Not bad, right? These are all people that I'd feel pretty confident reaching out to for a network engineer role, right? So I think it's a good example. Run that search by role, play around with it. I go back and forth sometimes. I'll play with the keyword, I'll play with the role search, add in some different things, and you can still be successful doing that and still actually get a very high response rate. So definitely test that out and talk to your product specialists as well. When you're going through those, we're always happy to help you out with those. Now, all that being said, that's a good segue right into our final slide, which is going to review a little bit more of our search resources we already have available. So let's just take a look here. We actually have a list on TalentBin support of some example TalentBin searches. And again, I can't stress enough, we've built out the supports at TalentBin a ton in the past few years. And where we're going right now, and this is completely searchable, like if I needed help with searches, I could literally just type in example TalentBin searches. But this is a specific article. And you see we have links out to some example wheelhouse technical searches, some non-wheelhouse technical searches, creative searches for those UI UX folks, finance, healthcare, and then we actually have searches for those non-wheelhouse roles as well. So for example, if I actually click one of these, right, let's just do like Android developer, why not? If I'm logged into TalentBin, it'll actually open up a search for that role in TalentBin. You can see it included at Android and Java and mobile. Now, of course, there's no location, and I'm going to want to narrow this down some, but it's a good way to help get you started, right? So if you ever have trouble, you're like, oh man, I'm just stuck. I don't know how to just get started with this search. Feel free to come to this article. We might have that search already built out for you. So feel free to check some of these out. I think it's a really handy way to, again, help you save time, help you get off the ground running. Let's check out as well those explode terms that I was using before. A lot of the times it's really handy to know which ones we have available. So if you scroll down here, you can actually see we have our full list of technical, of creative explode terms, healthcare and finance, company. And these are actually handy as well. Like if I click on my company explode terms here, what you'll find is we have, again, these large laundry lists of advertising companies and like marketing companies and technical companies. So again, nice things that if you're looking for somebody who comes from a certain type of company, you can use those to help you save time. We also have a little article here on just how to use those synonyms as well. So if you ever get confused, you can come back here, watch this video. It'll take you through how to create your own explode terms and what they do. We also do have articles for some of those really niche positions, right? So security clearance roles. I know a lot of people actually have security clearance roles where you need somebody to have security clearance, otherwise they're not a good fit, right? As well as DevOps and Scrum Master roles, those are also kind of unique, and we have articles walking you through how to set up searches for each of those. Just because we have some time right here, I'm actually going to go ahead and create a search for a security clearance role really quickly here. And just because I have some experience doing this, let's just go back to our full stack folder. And I have my search already set up. I have my 136 candidates. What I'm going to actually add in here, I'm going to add a field. And this is, again, unique to the passive space, where on a job board, a candidate could actually write out, yes, I have security clearance, right? But people are not supposed to put that information publicly online, not on LinkedIn, not on GitHub or Stack, whatever it might be, right? So it's hard with a passive tool to get that confirmed. It's just the nature of the space. That being said, what we've done here is a kind of way around this. We've built out these lists of companies that often require security clearance on their employees, right? So BAE Systems, Booz Hamilton, Lockheed Martin, right? All these companies that if you've worked there, you've likely acquired a security clearance, right? And now I'm saying, okay, somebody has to have worked at one of these security clearance companies, and I'm going to change this to company right here, and also has to have all these keywords I added in. And that being said, this is going to narrow my search down, so we'll run a search for it right away, and let's just see how we do, right? So it took us down to 3, right? But that being said, I had all these nice to haves in here, so you know what? I'm going to say, yeah, let's get rid of these really kind of niche, the Git and the backbone and reactive there. Brought me up to 61, right? I still have my Java, I still have my PHP, right? And I'm just going to keep adding in some of these. And I can play around with some of this, with some of these at any time I want, right? To just keep broadening up my search results right here as well. I could even play around with, you know what? I don't need somebody to come from like GitHub and Stack, right? If I just want to keep playing around with some of these, and you can see, you can edit all these yourself. But with security clearance specifically, right? This is the way to get around that, is putting in some of these terms we have, and we have a few other ones. As well, so besides the DoD contractors list, we have another larger one for common hirers, right? So this is a long list of companies, but play around with these. That's the way to try and find somebody that does have a security clearance. And what you just adjust then is your messaging. And I think in your email, you just say, hey, based on your experience working at, maybe it's Booz Hamilton, maybe it's, Lockheed Martin. I thought you'd have security clearance. This position does require security clearance, but based on your activity on GitHub and Stack and your work history, I thought you'd be a great fit for the role. And we've had people who have been very successful recruiting with security clearance by using these little type of heads right here and adjusting their messaging, right? So all that being said, I think if you ever get stuck, I think the best thing to do is to actually talk to your product specialist. We have an amazing team here. We're always willing to hop on the phone and get a screen share going and walk you through things, whether it's via email or again via phone, besides the additional resources we have on our support site. So never feel like you are completely stuck and you can't go forward. Email support at TalentBin or email your product specialist directly, and we'll get you going. So all that being said, thanks to everybody for watching, and go find those purple squirrels.